Beautiful.
And welcome back to another episode of Ronin's Den podcast. This is Duality Complex with the Dragon X, and tonight we are going to be talking about the new MCDM RPG on our new overlay. This is definitely the Dragon's areas of expertise, so I'm going to turn it over to him, and we are going to talk about this amazing new RPG.
First of all, a quick shout out to Telarius Game Master. He's the one who kind of helped us get this layout. It's awesome. I
Love it.
think we look nice, and we are fancy bitches now. And
He-
starting the next season, we're gonna try to be a little more fancy moving forward. But yes, tonight we are gonna talk about MCDM the RPG. But first, as always, we are sponsored by W Energy Drink. Go grab some on their website and use the promo code DEN Energy for 10% off. Now, back to MCDM. MCDM, for those of you who don't know, is a company that was started by Matt Colville. Matt Colville is famous for his Running the Game YouTube series, which has been wildly popular. In the process of creating those videos, he talked about his stronghold rules, which everybody clamored and wanted him to publish. So he went to Kickstarter and created the first book, Strongholds and Followers, that raised over $2 million. And from there, MCDM, the the company, appeared. From there, they've done Kingdoms of Warfare. They've done 3 classes for 5e. They've done a 30 issues of a magazine called Arcadia. And their latest creation, which we've covered before, is Flea Mortals. Now, with the OGL crisis and everything going on with Wizards of the Coast, MCDM decided they wanted to do their own thing. And that was create their own tabletop role-playing game. And currently, it's just called the MCDM RPG. They don't have a name for it. And I feel that marketing is doing really well for them. Because what game did you back? Oh, the MCDM game. Oh, MCDM has never missed. So I am insanely excited for this. In 24 hours, they raised $2.5 million with over 19,000 backers. It currently stands at $3.5 million with 20,000 backers, and there's 12 days to go. It has set the record for most money ever made on a backer kit, the most backers ever on a backer kit. And the beauty of it is, when Matt and the team presented it, they didn't even think it was going to fund. And it funded in 8 minutes. 8 minutes they were funded. That it's insane, the popularity that Matt Colville has. And I just wanted to do a video or like a podcast episode where we talk about it, because this is going to revolutionize the industry, I think. 20,000 people are bought into this game, and I'm one of them. So ultimately, I'm extremely excited. I like a lot of the things they're doing. The big thing about it is they want to distinguish themselves from 5e. They don't want to be D&D. Their game does what it's supposed to do, and they have no qualms with telling people, this is what our game is, this is what it's supposed to do. If this is not what you're looking for, go find a different game. I admire their ability to stand on that. And right now, what they want...
I was going to say, I loved
Go
every
ahead.
minute of their video where they're like, so does this do space opera? No. This is a heroic fantasy game. Oh. Well, does this do low fantasy, like, grimdark stuff? No.
No, go play a different game. I admire them planting their heels. James Introcaso, who's the lead designer, he flat out said, he goes, we want to design games that do things, not a kitchen sink, this can do everything. No, they want to create a game that does what it's supposed to do. And the 4 key words that they have for this game are heroic, tactical, cinematic, fantasy. And what does that mean? Well, what they're going for is they're trying to create the. So when you watch like a heroic fantasy movie, or let's just use one that everybody's going to know, Avengers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Avengers, Marvel. It's a cinematic heroic fantasy type thing. What happens is you get a bunch of different group of people come together for a common goal, which is to defeat an enemy, and then they progress along that way until they defeat the enemy. So the design of the MCDM RPG has a unique thing that I think is different because you don't start with all your resources. So in a lot of games like D&D specifically, a wizard starts the day, they have 10 spell slots, that's what they have. And then they use those down. The MCDM game, you start with limited resources. So maybe you start with a one ability, but then you have a resource. So the tactician or the fury has rage. The fury uses their rage to do cooler and more devastating things. But as they build up that rage through playing, the more stuff they can do. So it's kind of like in that Marvel movie where Captain America is doing basic things, but the longer you go in the movie, the more cool shit they do. That's kind of what they're going for with the cinematic of it, if that
So,
makes any sense.
so it's like your class is like a ladder progression.
In the design it is now, yes. Like you
Okay.
start with just your basic shit, and then as you go, you gain more of that resource that you have. So like I said, the Fury has rage, the Tactician has, I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But so you're gaining those resources as you go. So the thing is, it's trying to drive you to continue the adventuring day, but it also creates that conversation of, hey, I've got all these resources built up. Let's keep going. Or, I don't know. I'm low on health. I don't have a lot of recoveries. I got a lot of resources, but can we survive? So it's creating that tension. So, like
Oh.
in Avengers Age of Ultron, when they had to go to Hawkeye's farm and rest for a while,
Mm-hmm.
that was them. They had all their resources, but we just need a break. We need to calm down for a minute.
So
So it's kind of like trying to create that type of a mindset.
okay, so I've read nothing on the system. So does that mean like the resource is an expendable thing you're going to expend throughout the game, so you have to make the tactical decision of giving yourself like a cool ability or healing and having like a safe house? Like you could spend resource to do either one of those actions?
No, so what it is there are things called recoveries.
Mm-hmm.
Recoveries are a resource that is solely to heal you.
Okay.
It's like a healing surge. When those run out, you have to rest to
Okay.
get those back. Those are but like I said, as you're playing and progressing, you've built up all these rage points. You've built up, if you're playing the Beastmaster, your companion has built up all this ferocity. You can continue going because you have all these resources and you keep gaining them. But you'll reach a point where it's like, okay, I can keep going because I'm going to get more victories, which victories become experience. But I could be putting myself in great risk because I'm out of this other resource called recoveries. So it's kind of like it creates this dynamic where one person might be like, "Hey, I've got all my recoveries. I've got all my resources. Let's keep going." And another member of the team's like, "Fuck you. I can't keep going. I'm at 5 health and I've got no recoveries. If I go into another battle, I'm dead."
So
So it's
it's a bunch of
creating like
different
these.
types of resources that you're spending for different things.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
So they're very focused on that resource management, as well as the big focus is their classes. And their classes all do different things. Like I said, one of them, we're going to cover it at another date with Fry, the talent. They've converted the talent to their game, and they work with stress and having the psychic abilities. So they look at the classes and they build up a class. Then they create a fantasy based off that class that they think would be cool. So, like the tactician is a battlefield manager. Their abilities revolve around like creating different situations, giving advantages to their allies, disadvantages to their enemies. Where the Fury, which is basically their barbarian, his abilities are built on I'm going to beat the shit out of this motherfucker. So they're trying to create these unique classes that fit certain fantasy tropes, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes perfect sense now. Where I think I was confused was where you were talking about resource. And I'm like, so wait, is there just like one set of resource that you spend for everything? And it's kind of like Counter Strike. While you're going, you're progressively getting more and more of these cool abilities, and then like you run out of resources, so you no longer have these abilities, and you need to regain resource to get more of that ability. Kind of like the old Final Fantasy VIII magic system. Like you could have 5 fire 3s, but once you run out, you got to go get more. If that makes any sense.
Okay.
That's the way I was hearing it initially. I'm like, that sounds like super in depth and tactical. Like, I would like something like that. Wow.
Well, the game is definitely designed for tactical. So they've flat out said it's not a theater of the mind game. You're going to struggle if you try to play this theater of the mind. It is meant to have a map with a grid, with enemy placing, because a lot of abilities shove people around, and you can like slam someone through a wall to do extra damage. Okay. They are very much focusing on that tactical aspect, but they want it to be heroic. They want it to be cinematic, which I'm worried about the cinematic aspect. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that off, but they're definitely going to get the heroic tactical fantasy. But the cinematic, I'm sure they'll figure it out. As I've stated, MCDM has never missed, in my opinion. Every product I've ever gotten from them, I've loved. So they've earned my faith in them, if that makes any sense. But the other things that make this system kind of stand out to me is they've put negotiation mechanics in it. So yes. instead of like in D&D 5e, you go to negotiate with the king, right? Or let's just say a shopkeeper. You go in, you roll some dice, the DM decides, okay, you succeed, you don't. Not in this game. There is patience and there is interest. And there are motivations and pitfalls. So when you go to meet with this innkeeper, he may have very little patience and very little interest. Or he may be very high patience but very low interest. Basically, you set that up based on however you feel it should work, or that character, how they are in your world as the DM. So let's say I put him high patience, low interest. He doesn't want anything the players have, but he'll listen to about anything. So they start the negotiation. They find out he has this ancient magical sword. They want that sword. Well, they start talking with him. He sets, okay, this is the price. This is what it's going to take for you to get this sword. Now, the players could say, okay, we'll take that deal. Or they can try to change the deal. So they could be like, okay, we don't like that deal. How about this? But that comes with a roll that could lower his patience. And if his patience ever goes below his interest, deal's off. He's just not going to deal with you anymore and tell you to get the hell out. Okay. So it creates this dynamic of, do we want to keep pushing our luck because we don't know where those meters are. Now, motivations and pitfalls are the other ones there. So let's say the pitfall is that this ancient sword was his family's sword. And if you were to bring up his dead brother and say something like, your dead brother wouldn't want this rotting away in a store, he would want a hero in the field to have it. But the only reason his brother's not alive is because he had it in a field. Negotiation's over. You've hit one of his pitfalls. He's not going to negotiate with you. Fuck you. Who are you to talk about my brother?
So pitfalls would be like your save or suck version of something?
Yeah. So like if you were to bring up a pitfall, like something that he's going to shut down.
Yeah.
So it'd be like everybody has those things that like you say it and they're done with you. Like they're never going to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
So you give them a couple pitfalls. But there's also motivations. So maybe you do some research before going to talk to this guy, and you find out that he's been looking for this ancient artifact or this scroll or something, and you guys get a hold of that. Suddenly, you present that to him. You're probably going to get whatever you want because that's his motivation. That's what he wants. And they've decided to make that a mechanic instead of just DM fiat.
I like that. Yeah, no, that's nice.
So they're going to have like a list of NPCs that have motivations and pitfalls as like examples and like patience level and interest level. Then they're also going to like give the brief overview of how a DM can, or they call them directors, how the director can do it themselves. And I think it is nice because I hate doing all that myself. I like mechanics.
Yes. I like having mechanics so you can avoid the DM fiat part of things. I'm not a big fan of saying this, well, because I said so. It's not one of my favorite things to say.
Yeah. So if you go to the website where the backer kit and you look at it, it gives you it's very well detailed. So it goes what the game is and what the game is not. And I think talking about what the game isn't is very important. So one of the questions that kept coming up in the live stream is, can you play an evil character? And Matt Colville's like, well, that really depends on what you mean by evil character. He goes, we don't have a bunch of NPCs that have a list of gold for you to pickpocket them or to kill them and take their stuff, because that's not the type of game we're creating. But he goes, if you are a group of knights and you need to do something less than moral to accomplish a goal, then yes. But if you want to be the murder hobo, I'm going to kill everybody in town and nitpick all these little rations and these little pieces of gold, this isn't the game for you. So they're not focused on rations. They're not focused on how many torches you need to go through a dungeon. They're not focused on all of that little nitpicky stuff. They're focused on the roleplay and getting to the action. If that makes any sense.
Loads of sense. At least to me.
So,
that part makes sense to me. Like I said, I was getting hung up on the resources.
Also, I love this one little phrase. You can plunge heedless of danger into a dark and haunted forest, but this game is not about exploration. There are no hexes to explore. They're telling you, point blank, we do not give two shits about the exploration pillar. This is about combat and social. Exploration, we don't give a shit. This game is not exploration. So all the people out there like, oh, the three pillars, and this game wants to be all three pillars. No, they don't. MCDM does not want to be all three pillars.
That's nice
and
that they're
I
willing
love
to say
the
it,
commitment.
Yeah.
Like, And I feel like even though they've said it, there are going to be people that will bitch about it when it comes out. And it'll be like, did you not read any of it? Like, they do not hide what they are. I sent you the clip where one of the people in the question, he's like, oh, so it's like, it's not your normal dungeon crawler type of a game. And Matt's like, no. We are not your normal dungeon crawler. We are not a dungeon crawler. That is not our game. We do not dungeon delve in this game. That is a misinterpretation. That we do not intend for you to go diving into dungeons and doing all the exploration of dungeons. It's like, I admire that you are willing to take the time to just be like, no, this is not what we are.
It really feels like this game is going to be an encounter crafter's wet dream. Somebody who likes to spend a lot of time just crafting environments and enemies and conditions for winning a conflict. Whether that's annihilation of the enemy or it's through some sort of negotiation. Like, I really feel like that's where... Oh, God, it's going to be so nice to see a game like that.
Well, I definitely... It's definitely a combat simulator.
Yeah.
For sure. And I like that. I don't think everything has to be... Not every system has to be everything.
No.
It can just be what it is. And we've looked over Flea Mortals together. They're converting Flea Mortals to this system.
Which is
so
nice.
the monsters are going to be Flea Mortals. So it's going to be good. And the one thing I really like about the combat system is that there's no to hit. You just hit.
Yeah.
So when you roll your dice, it's 2d6 plus a modifier. Whatever you rolled is the damage that you deal. Now, there are a lot of people that were like, well, how's that going to work? And Matt's like, you roll the dice and it deals damage. They're like, well, how does armor come into play? He's like, it's a damage reduction. Your armor now is not just a number that you have to hit. And the reason they went with that design is because of people like me who think it's absolutely absurd that you spend 30% of the time in a combat doing literally nothing because your dice fucked you.
Yeah.
Like, I've always been one of those people I don't like. Like, I like failure if it's narratively interesting. But in combat, in D&D or any of those, when you roll a miss, I guess I don't do anything. Not in MCDM's TTRPG. You roll your damage, which is your 2 dice, and that's the damage. And that makes your choice of armor super important. Because now heavy armor means you're taking less damage. Not that you just have a higher target to hit.
No.
So heavy armor means less damage. Or some heavy armor gives you more health, which is essentially the same thing.
Yeah. Did you see the rules on evasion for people who are going to wear lighter armor or no armors? Is there a damage mitigation trail that you know of for them? Because if it's just, the better your armor, the heavier your armor, that's going to... I don't like using the word balance because it doesn't make sense. It makes sense, but lightly armored and no armored tend to have their own avenues for mitigations.
So I think the way... I don't know for sure because I'm only dealing with the limited stuff they've put out so far. Mm-hmm. But the way it looks right now is that if you have light or no armor, you're going to deal more damage.
Okay.
To make up. So you are more of a glass cannon. You're going to take a lot more damage, but you're going to put out a lot more damage. And you're also quicker. So what they have now, they're called kits. So instead of like you have proficiencies in 5e, which you're proficient with this weapon or that weapon or this armor or that armor. What they have are things called kits. And the kits allow you to do other abilities. They kind of determine what weapon you have and things like that. So with the Shining Armor, which is a heavy armor kit, you get a lot of health and a few other little things. But then there's the Cloak and Dagger one, which gives you +3 to your speed, a lot more damage, a lot more range. It gives you kind of like a Cloak and Dagger to jump in and out of the fray ability. So I think they're more focused on making the things interesting as opposed to the mechanicals. It's mechanically interesting as opposed to, I don't know the right way to put it. You know what I'm trying to say here. So if you take the Shining Armor kit, you're going to get a ton of health, but you're not going to be as fast. And you're not going to deal as much damage. You are Defender, and you have Lead the Charge, which is an ability that each ally, you move up to your speed and each target can do the same. So basically, you're this stalwart defender and you can move and move everyone with you. Where Cloak and Dagger, you're a lot faster, you have a lot more damage, you don't get nearly as much health, you only get +5, where the Shining Armor got 20 health. And their ability is a misdirection attack. Slide the target up to a number of squares equal to twice your agility. So you get an attack and you can push people away from you. So you have more like battlefield control. So these kits, it's not a heavy armor, take less damage, little armor, take little damage. It's very dynamic.
Okay.
If that helps explain it a little more.
Yeah, no, now it makes sense.
Yeah. Which, yeah, I love what I've seen so far. Obviously, early beta, but another thing that they're doing that I've never seen any company do before is on their Patreon and on their YouTube channel, they're giving design notes. So the Patreon users, which I'm a patron, I'm on their Patreon, $8 a month. We get an article of everything that changes, that worked, that didn't work. Like, we get full detailed reports. And then after they give us the report, they go to the YouTube and they make a video explaining, like, this is where we started, this is where we are, we threw all that away, and this is why we're here. So what's gonna happen is a lot of times with new games, people will come in and be like, I don't understand why they chose to do this in their design and didn't do this. And there's no answer. With the MCDM RPG, they're going to have people like me that are going to, no. Let me tell you why they didn't do that. And they did this. Because when they did this, these were the problems that came up. And it just became easier to do this. One of the examples, if you've ever played the Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars RPG with the funky dice, you've heard of it though, right?
I almost got into it, but
they have these
expensive.
Yeah. So they have these funky dice. Well, this game, they wanted their own funky dice. They wanted the cinematic, like, dice. And as they were doing it, they're like, this just isn't working. Well, then they started to make their own dice, but simplified. Well, then, as they're playing, James Introcaso, the lead designer, goes, I feel like we could just do this with 2d6s. And everybody's like, yeah, you're right. Let's go to 2d6s. So there was a progression from custom dice to cinematic dice to 2d6s. And the other dice didn't work. Like, it wasn't doing what they wanted to do. So when people are like, oh, I don't understand why they're doing 2d6s. Well, because nothing else worked. It just didn't work with what they wanted. And
like about it?
You can't use a d20. What?
All those Rule Zero people, they're gonna be like, I want to do this instead. Like, there's going to be a entire spreadsheet of a lot of things these people are gonna want to do to fix the game that have already been done. It's like, no, it breaks it. It doesn't work. No, yeah, there's a spreadsheet right here. It
I mean,
says on line L the exact same thing you're talking about. It doesn't work.
it's so the latest video that came out, James and Tricasso did it on their MCDM YouTube. It was talking about like the resources and the recoveries. And he's like, I had to go to Matt with the playtesters' feedback and they loved it and we were pissed because we knew we had to change it. And what it was is the way they designed the game, like I was talking about how you gain resources as you go. There was no incentive to ever rest. Like they couldn't get the playtesters to rest because you just get your resources back and there's no reason to rest and you could heal infinitely. So they had to create the recovery mechanic, that recovery resource that once you're out of recoveries, you're done. You can't heal anymore to get people to rest. So it's like, he's like, it was a design flaw that we had to fix. And he's like, so yeah, they're fully like, there's going to be a library of videos as well as a library of information about why this game is the way it is. And I think that is revolutionary. I don't think any game has ever done that.
Not that I'm aware of, like not having the full developer notes from beginning till end. I mean, yeah, some video games out there,
Yeah.
sure, but things you can get on the GitHub for that are open source, but never a TTRPG. So yeah, no, that's awesome. That's something I'm actually gonna. I think that's gonna be one of the things I'm gonna have the most interest in is going through their changelog. I don't know why I'm gonna find that so fascinating, but.
Well, I think it's because you're like me and mechanics interest you.
Yeah.
Because like I deeply care about the why a game is the way it is. Why does this game work? Why do I play this game and not that game? I care about the mechanics of a game because, as we've said in other videos, I feel that mechanics dictate the way a story progresses. So when you have a game that is going to tell you, these are the reasons we did this, this is what we tried and it failed, this is what we did. Like, one of the videos they talked about the Destiny die, which has been erased. They are not using it, but they loved it. What it was like, I don't know. So at the end of Avengers Infinity War or Endgame, when Captain America yells, Avengers Assemble, what it was is this die, you rolled it in a cinematic moment like that, and it gave you a buff. Well, the problem was they wanted it to be this like very rare, only on certain occasion thing. But every combat, people were rolling that die and making like a statement. They're like, well, we can't use this. So
Yeah.
they wanted it to be like this special thing, but how do you tell people you can only use this every once in a while without it like them being like, well, it's there, why wouldn't I use it? So it's very interesting that you get to see all those. I guess you just get to see all the bugs and see how they work them out, and I like that.
I dig that. I really do. That is neat.
But that's about all the information we have on it right now.
Okay.
But they are playtesting it. They are, as Matt said in the live stream, it's playing right now. They have people testing it and playing it, and it works. And most of the people who play it love it. So I have full hopes that it's going to be really good, and I'm highly looking forward to it. However, I want to mention one more thing about this freaking backer kit that stunned me,
Okay.
and it stunned everyone. They had a tier called the Ajax tier. It was $500. $500. It sold out in 8 minutes. They only had 500 copies of it. Gone in 8 minutes. Like, you're telling me that this game is that popular that people were willing to drop $500 on a tier for the backer kit. Like, even James and Matt are like, we looked and it was gone in 8 minutes. They were like, we never, with, like, Matt, he's like, I figured we'd at least fund, but he goes, I never thought the $500 tier would be gone in 8 minutes.
That's pretty crazy. That was pretty nuts. And it's pretty, too. It was really pretty.
It is, like, dude, I wanted to back it, but I don't have $500.
Right.
I just wanted the freaking mini. Like, the mini of Ajax is beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, if you're watching this, they don't need you to support them. They fund it. They've got 20,000 people that are fully on board. But if you're interested in a very different type of game, I'd back it. I would. MCDM has never missed, and I don't think they're going to start now. Also, this is more just me I'm going to praise them for a minute. They pay their writers 25 cents a word. WotC pays 7. Most companies pay 2 to 3 cents a word. MCDM pays their writers 25 cents a word. It's unheard of. They pay their artists per draft. They don't pay for like the full art. They pay per revision. They clearly care about the community. And if you look at their products, they are the most expensive products. Their books are more expensive than WotC. This campaign here, the 2 books are more than any 2 books I've ever spent. But I know that their money is not going to corporate greed, and it is going to the individuals that work on their products. And the reason they pay so much is, to quote Matt Colville, we want to be able to go to sleep at night. They are a great company filled with great people who deserve your money because they put out amazing products and they take care of their employees. They take care of their contractors. And we need more people like them in the industry. And we need them to not die out, because if they're willing to do it and people see what they're doing, maybe other companies will follow suit. But MCDM is the top company, in my opinion, in this industry for taking care of their people, and they deserve your praise and they deserve your money. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
Agreed. Well,
so, but yeah, so
go on. Sorry.
No, I'm good. Got any other questions or any other thoughts?
No, this is something I think we're going to pay pretty close attention to, and as we get more playtest material and all that, we can revisit and follow this through until they do the launch.
Well, I've signed up to do some of the playtests. I'm constantly looking for one that pops up. If I actually get to play this and playtest it, I will come back and we are going to talk about everything I thought, everything I liked, everything I disliked, and we're going to give it a full sweep. But for now, this is all the information out there, and I'm excited.
Sounds great. I guess we will follow this up on another day when we got more info.
Yep, and thanks for watching, everybody.
Yep, we'll catch you next time.
Enjoy our new layout.
Yes, for the new year, new season, and the new professional Ronin's Den podcast.
Yeah.